Ep14 of A Bit of Everything. I'm Henry H-Bomb Higgins.
And I'm Josh J-Rock Higgins.
And today we're reviewing Captain Marvel, the 21st movie in the MCU, and the last stop before Endgame.
Yep.
And how are we doing that, Josh?
We'll be doing two different versions today. First one will be spoiler-free.
And the second one, where we will go a bit more in-depth into the movie, go into some of the themes, some of the action that happens, some of the events, and how it ties into the MCU as a whole. So that will be filled with spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, come back to that section of the video once you have. And don't worry, we will give you plenty of warning to when that is going to happen. So, first of all, let's get cracking with the spoiler-free look at the movie. Now, spoiler-free, Josh, what did you think of the movie?
I thought it was a great movie overall.
Okay, and in the MCU canon of the movies so far, would you place it near the top? Lower down, more bottom?
Yeah, I'd place it at least top 5.
Top 5, top for you, top 5 MCU.
Yeah.
For me as well. Again, it can be influenced because we've literally just seen it last night.
Yeah.
But it is definitely one of the better MCU movies. It's easily up there with the best of the solo movies. Iron Man and possibly Black Panther are ahead of it. But for a movie, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about any of the political stuff that was dominating the headlines before the movie came out. I'll possibly do a video on that myself when Josh isn't here. This is literally just about the movie and how the movie came across. And for me, it was excellent. Brie Larson is fantastic as Captain Marvel. Yeah. Sam Jackson, what do you think of young Nick Fury?
Yep, very good.
And the de-aging special effects were amazing, because obviously you're a bit younger, so you won't have seen a lot of Samuel L. Jackson stuff that isn't MCU. But the de-aging technology on him and Coulson, pretty damn special. For me, I'm doing most of the talking here. Josh will pipe in a second. The start of the movie, the opening scenes on Hala are quite slow paced, take a bit of time to get going, but it's intentionally done that way. So it makes sense in regards to the movie itself. Yeah. And once we get through that, and it's really to introduce who Star Force is, which is Yon-Rogg, Korath the Pursuer, and Minerva, and a couple others whose names I can't remember at the top of my head, about how they are this elite force within the Kree. Yeah. Some neat cameos, obviously, with, you've seen the trailers, that Ronan the Accuser is also here as well. And with it being set in 1995, it's set about 20 years. No, Guardians of the Galaxy was set quite early on as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it's definitely pre-Guardians of the Galaxy. And yeah, everything about the movie really works. Brie Larson is great.
Yeah.
The chemistry between her and Samuel L. Jackson as Carol Danvers and Nick Fury. Again, Josh being a bit younger, but the age I am and the people obviously my generation, growing up with the staple buddy cop movie, that's essentially what this is. And for me, it's definitely a 4 out of 5, 4-star movie, and I recommend you go and see it. What about yourself?
I also agree with you. I really do recommend you see it.
Okay, highlights? Without getting into great spoiler detail?
Fight scenes.
The fight scenes.
Not going to specify which ones,
But you think the fight scenes were well done?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, since we're not going into too much detail here, go see the movie, make up your own mind. Personally, it's one of the best in the MCU for us. Captain Marvel is a fantastic character, and we look forward to seeing what she will do when Endgame rolls around. Do you agree?
Yes.
How many thumbs up cool is it?
Well, I can only put 2 because I don't have 5 hands.
So, 4 thumbs up cool from the boys at H&J Productions. And now, your countdown to Spoilerville begins. Okay, so if you're still with us, hopefully you have seen the movie. As we mentioned prior to the cut for the spoilers, we really enjoyed the movie. Even from the opening, where the Marvel Studio logo obviously precedes all the Marvel movies. Why don't you tell the people, why was this one so special?
Well, as you probably know, when an MCU movie starts, it's usually tons of the MCU characters in the Marvel logo. But this time it was a lot more special. As you said, each picture where a character should be was a Stan Lee cameo.
It was one of the Stan Lee cameos from his entire run.
Yeah.
And it was emotional. Yeah. Started welling up a little bit. It was so beautifully done. It was perfect. And yeah, it kind of set the tone that Stan Lee didn't create all of these characters himself. Obviously, he had people like Steve Ditko helping him out, Jack Kirby with the visuals and the ideas, but Stan Lee obviously was the ideas man who came up with the concept of a lot of these characters, and he was the face of Marvel, and he was an amazing man. So to have that little tribute kick off things was really good. Yeah. And then there was a little concern whether that would be his only cameo in the movie, because obviously they gave him that at the beginning, but then we remembered that, well, this, which was filmed after Endgame, incidentally, and Endgame itself were filmed while he was still alive. Yeah. So then we remembered, oh, he will have, or he should have, a cameo in the film at some point. But yeah, so after that, the movie opens in Hala, which is the Kree homeworld, Kree where they're centralised. And what's interesting is that Captain Marvel is powered. It's great. She's powered from the start. You know, she's fully. Well, she's not fully powered. That's a bit of a misnomer. She is, but she isn't. But she has her powers. She's being trained. She's part of this Star Force unit, and we do get to see her origins, but they're uniquely told by flashbacks. Just little flashes back to what happened to her and how she ended up here, and that's dotted through the whole of the movie. But what's interesting is obviously she learns how she goes on. Yeah? And there's a reviewer, another reviewer was saying that one of the things, he enjoyed the movie but he was confused because he wasn't 100% sure what Captain Marvel's powers were. And I thought that was interesting because when you watch the movie, she's not 100% sure what her powers are. She's learning as she goes along. And later on in the movie, you realise as well that the Kree have put an implant in her neck that they tell her is where she gets her power from, and they can limit it, but it's actually an inhibitor. And once she takes that off, that's when we get Captain Marvel. Yeah? But the movie, would you agree that the movie doesn't really pick up until she lands on Earth? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
It's a slow start to there.
Obviously that's when she meets Sword of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, and she crashes into a Blockbuster video to show that we're set in 1995. I was 18 years old at the time, 1995, and an interesting little fact is the Blockbuster she crashes into in the movie is currently the only Blockbuster video store in the world. There was 2, but the one in Australia recently closed, which was making headlines. So that one's in Oregon, and it is the actual last Blockbuster in the world, and they got to film there, which was fantastic. And then you get the whole fish out of water thing, yeah. And so yeah, what you were saying, Shield turn up
Yeah.
with a young Nick Fury. What do you think from there? How does the film go from there?
Well, like you said, of course, that is where the film kicks off, but they come in, see the blockbusters thing, and then the policeman points towards Captain Marvel, and that's when they first meet.
Yeah.
And it is like barely even a minute after they met. They say try to arrest her, and she just shoots fire out.
Yeah,
Oh,
her
it's
plasma
Skrull.
bolt. Yeah, Skrulls. So there's no real exposition. It's just Carol, well, Veers as she's known at the time, just basically saying that, hey, I'm here because the Skrulls are here. I'm here to stop the Skrulls. And at this point, obviously in Shield, Nick Fury's a low-level guy. He has no idea about all this space stuff. But then a Skrull snipes at Captain Marvel. She shoots back with her plasma bolts, and suddenly it's all go. Yeah. And what we get from there is fantastic chase scene through the train, which was briefly hinted at or shown in the trailer.
Yeah.
A fantastic touch in this is we've seen in the trailer, you see her punching the old lady who's a Skrull.
Yeah.
And then she keeps punching her. But the other people in the train, all they see is this blonde woman beating up an old woman. And they actually try and stop her. Which you rarely see in these movies. You know, normally the civilians are there just to be like window dressing around the fight.
Yeah.
But they're actively getting involved in trying to stop her beating up this old woman. Who then becomes a man because it's a Skrull, jumps up and runs. How her and Fury get together is the double act.
Yeah.
It's essentially a little bit of a road movie. And it's pretty damn cool how the movie works. Like we were saying, young Fury and Coulson look fantastic.
Yeah.
The Ben Mendelsohn as Talos, like the lead Skrull in the movie, is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of your favourite character from Thor Ragnarok was Korg, which, to be fair, he's everyone's favourite character. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talos is almost like the Skrull Korg. He speaks in an Australian accent, which is basically Ben Mendelsohn's actual accent. And it's just weird seeing it. All the Skrulls kind of speak in an Australian accent, don't they? But that's one of those things that in any science fiction movie when it's alien races, you just have to have the suspension of disbelief that they all speak English for the movie to work. Valkyrie, just to try and clear it's not a movie you've seen. Valkyrie's a Tom Cruise movie where he plays a German. And they do a brilliant thing in there where he, at the beginning of the movie, he's speaking German and reading a letter with subtitles. But then his voiceover slowly changes from German to English. And essentially is the plot device of showing that, yeah, he is speaking German, but for the benefit of the story, we're translating it to English. So, in the movie, she has a universal translator, which translates other languages to English. That's how she can understand them. So it's a little throwaway thing, but it works. So once we're on Earth, we've got some great action set pieces, yeah, some great comedy moments. The soundtrack is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now, again, like I mentioned earlier, Josh is a young man. Josh is 12. I'm 42. And I was 18 in 1995 when this movie came out. Or when this movie was set, sorry. It came out this weekend. When this movie was set, I was 18 years old. So this was the soundtrack to my nights out, my parties. This was the soundtrack to my get-togethers, anytime we were in a pub. So it all was just like nostalgia for me. And nostalgia is a powerful drug. And what were you going to say?
It's not even that, it's just putting in like nostalgic music where it can. It fits in what is happening as well.
It really does.
I can't remember what the song's called, but in one of the final fight scenes.
What, which is fully powered?
Yeah.
It's a song called from No Doubt called Just a Girl.
Yeah.
Which, like you're saying, is just perfect for that.
Yeah. That is my favourite scene of the movie, which I was talking in the spoiler-free version, fight scene. The specific one which I was talking about.
When she's so fully powered,
Yeah.
it's crazy. There's also a scene where Nirvana's "Come As You Are" plays. It's like, because one of the main villains, or main conceptual villains, is the Supreme Intelligence, which is like an artificial intelligence leader of the Kree. And when you go and meet with the Supreme Intelligence, it takes the form of something dear to you to make you more comfortable and more relatable. And to break free of the shackles of everything that's been placed on her, she fights, in her mind, she fights the Supreme Intelligence to "Come As You Are" by Nirvana. And it's just, everything about the movie is just well done, it's well paced. There is faults with it, don't get me wrong. Certain things seem a little, like Jude Law is really good as Jon Rogg, but he always just seems a little off. And I don't know if that's intentional because of the character and the big twist that he's the actual villain of the piece. The Skrulls are not. That scene where we find out that the Skrulls aren't the bad guys are really good. Then we head into space, and both you and I, our eyes were like, whoa, when we saw the Tesseract.
Yeah.
Because essentially what that means is the Tesseract is what gave Captain Marvel her powers. So now we're tied into the MCU completely at this point. And she's linked with the Infinity Stones as well. And it's interesting, people say, no, it's a continuity error with the Tesseract being there, but it's really not. Because if you look at the history of the Tesseract, it's in Odin's vault. Obviously it's created when the Infinity Stones are created and such like, but the Tesseract is in Odin's vault. He then hides it in Norway on Earth in like the 15th century, I want to say. From there, it stays at this place until in Captain America the First Avenger, the Red Skull finds it.
Yeah.
And he uses it to obviously create the Hydra super weapons. Then from there, they get it off him because it sinks into the ocean when Cap... Well, he tries to use it and obviously he disappears, and we didn't know what happened to him until Infinity War, where we finally got him back, which was amazing. But the Captain America and the Tesseract went into the Arctic Ocean. Yeah. Who found it? Howard Stark found it in the war. Couldn't find Cap, but he found the Tesseract. Took it and gave it to what would eventually become S.H.I.E.L.D., who then, with the Pegasus, which is the big Air Force government union body trying to come up with some stuff, which was referenced in Thor and Iron Man 2. So there's a link there. The Tesseract was being used there to actually do, they were trying to harness it, and then that's when Marvel, who's a woman in this, which people will kick up a stink about, for no real good reason. The Tesseract is then with her in her lab, which is where we obviously come to in this movie. It then ends up back in the hands of S.H.I.E.L.D. thanks to Goose. And then that's where it's in our hands until we get to the first Avengers movie where Loki steals it from S.H.I.E.L.D. to power the invasion of the Chitauri, and then we know what it is from there. And now Thanos has broke it, got the stone. So it ties in perfectly. It does not ruin, there's no plot hole, it doesn't ruin continuity in any way. Just seeing the Tesseract was like, whoa! It was genuinely mind stuff. And then a running joke with someone I really admire and respect on YouTube, Eric Voss, is whenever he does a video about the Avengers, just like he plays the whole clip of whenever...
Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye.
And we all knew going into this film that he was going to lose his eye. He was going to lose his eye. And they do an amazing thing through the whole running time of the film where we know he's losing an eye. The pervading theory is he's going to lose his eye because of Goose. who is not a cat.
We
He's
knew,
furry.
everyone knew he wasn't a cat
Yeah.
because of even in the trailer where
Yeah.
Fury goes to check the name, but it just like
Yeah,
puts
puts
his hand on.
So they tease it so many times that it's actually hilarious. You think, oh, is this it? Is this it? And then when it actually happens, it's more out of the blue than you think. But yeah, Goose revealing his true nature. How did you think about that? What did you think there? Because the Skrulls are terrified of it as soon as they see it. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Skrull knew because like, are you scared of it?
It's a furclin.
The Furclin, yeah. But obviously Fury.
Flurkin.
Yeah. Okay. Fury and everyone else thought that it was a cat, so they were very confused why they thought it was a cat. But then I believe the first time we got to see it was Furkin thing. Was when he ate the Tesseract.
He did, and then he ate some Kree. For those who aren't aware, basically they have a mouth which is essentially like a pocket dimension. It's like a black hole. So whenever he takes something in, it's not actually in his stomach, it's just there. So that was quite the reveal, and I imagine for a lot of people who had no knowledge of Captain Marvel, Marvel Comics, anything like that, that would have been such a shock for them. But yeah, the whole story about this woman who overcomes... She's got all the physical tools. She has to overcome her own weakness mentally to become Captain Marvel. And basically the whole thing, the twist with the Skrulls is very well done. It's not telegraphed, and it is slightly, looking back on it now, there is some slight little telegraphs, but the entire premise of it, of why Talos specifically is determined to get to Earth, why they're doing what they're doing, why they were so aggressive in the beginning of the movie, and then suddenly they're pacifists, or not pacifists, but they're peaceful. And the reason, and people are saying, oh, it makes no sense. But it does, because Star Force, their entire premise of being is to hunt down and eliminate Skrulls. Yeah, that's what they're there for. And whenever Star Force turn up, the Skrulls know that they're going to die. So of course they're going to fight. But then the scene where Talos sees how Vers, Captain Marvel, is with Monica Rambeau, and the family, he realises she's not dissimilar to him, and that's when we start having the turn up. So it makes perfect sense. This movie is fantastic. Little things about how it ties into the MCU as a whole, including the TV shows. In the trailer, they escape in a plane. We all thought it was a Quinjet. Yeah. It's not. It's actually a Quadjet. Yeah. So it's the predecessor of the Quinjet. The losing the eye obviously sets up Nick Fury, as we know. Even the entire Avengers initiative, which is from Iron Man 1 at the very end, is named after her. It was initially going to be the Protector Initiative, but then Fury, in honour of Captain Marvel, who was the first superpowered being that he'd seen, changed it to the Avenger Initiative based on her call sign when she was Carol Danvers. There's a scene in Iron Man where Phil Coulson says to Tony Stark, "This isn't my first rodeo." Captain Marvel is his first rodeo. The scene in the end when of Iron Man again, when Nick Fury first shows up and said, "Do you think you're the only hero out there?" And that's because of this movie. This all ties into everything. The Tesseract, and what's going to happen. And one of the other big complaints, or the big comments, is that, well, why hasn't he phoned for Captain Marvel using the pager before now? You know, we've had Loki in the Invasion, Ultron, you know, various other things who were going to do it. But he set up the Avengers Initiative based on what his experience with Captain Marvel to protect the world. And that's what they were doing. he needed to know that the Avengers Initiative could actually work. So when the Tatari invasion came in, the Avengers cleaned that up. The Avengers managed to clear up Ultron. They saved the day. But when Thanos did his snap, the Avengers lost. And they lost big. But it wasn't just Earth that was lost. The Avengers are Earth's mightiest heroes. Thanos' decimation snap affected the entire universe. There were probably people where Captain Marvel is, or was, before she got paged, who disappeared. There were probably people who disappeared in front of her and she didn't know why. And when she got Fury's page, because she says in the movie it's only in an emergency, and as Fury is disappearing, he sees people disappearing, he sees Maria Hill disappear, he's disappearing, that's when he realises this is the emergency that he needs the most powerful being he has ever seen to come and help.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And then we have Endgame coming up, and going by what happened with Captain Marvel, Endgame may be the end for Thanos, not the Avengers. It may have a double meaning. The movie, Captain Marvel movie, basically ends with her flying off into space to help the Skrulls, which is why she's away, which is why she gives them the pager. But there's 2 post-credit scenes in the movie. Why don't you tell us about the post-credit scene before the mid-credit scene? So what happens in the post-credit scene?
Well, the Goose like coughed up the Tesseract like a furball.
Yeah.
And
straight onto Nick Fury's desk.
Which is how he gets it back.
And the mid-credit scene, which was quite a surprise. We knew there was obviously going to be one, but what the mid-credit scene was quite a surprise. Yeah. So tell the viewers what happened in the mid-credit scene. Obviously they know what happened, but just reel it, and then we'll give our thoughts on it.
Yeah. So it was the start. It was Cap. So him, then he turned around. There was Banner like testing the connection of the communication device thing with the Captain Marvel logo, and then suddenly turns off.
Yeah, and Rhodey comes in, doesn't he?
Yeah, and then everyone's like, might get a connection back. We both thought, well, why did the connection go away? But that's because the person who they were phoning has already arrived.
Yeah.
Black Widow, well, I want to find out who's on the other end of this, turns around, finds out Captain Marvel's right there, then the main credits.
Yeah, so basically, as Josh said, the mid-credit scene opens, it must be very soon after the snap, because Cap's still got his beard, and Black Widow's still got the short blonde hair. And we're just looking at the pager, where obviously they found it from where Fury was after before he disappeared, and they've got it running on an alternative energy source to keep it going, and the signal's there, but it stops working. War Machine Rhodey comes in to say that thing stopped thinging, and we see that the Avengers, Cap and Black Widow, they're just looking at a countdown that goes up, showing how many people have now been reported missing.
Yeah.
And it's about 3.5 billion at this point, which is pushing half of all life on Earth and the current population. And it's devastating. And like they say, they want to know what's on the other end of it. And Captain Marvel is just there and she just wants to know what happened. Where's Fury? And it's interesting, her costume is quite a bit different. Colour scheme's obviously the same, but the costume's had some upgrades by the looks of it.
The gold shoulders.
Because she's been gone for about a time, hasn't she? And
the logo's changed.
That was interesting because in all the trailers for Endgame we've seen so far, she's not been seen at all, which is understandable. Her movie hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
But this shows that she's there early in Endgame. How early, I don't know, but what was being said was none of the footage shown in the trailers is from anything after the first 20 minutes in the movie. Cap's clean shaven, so she must be there very early on. Which also means the scene in the trailer where they're outside looking up at space, or looking up to the sky as something's coming down, isn't Captain Marvel like we all thought. So it's possibly Tony Stark coming back. Yeah, and Captain Marvel was in the scene, but just obviously edited out not to spoil it. So Endgame is only, what, 5-6 weeks now? It's the end of April. So yeah, 7 weeks maybe. April's going to be huge for us because obviously we've got Endgame. We've also got WrestleMania, the takeover for WrestleMania. I've got Game of Thrones starting. It's all go there, so it should be a busy time on the channel as well. But as rambly as this was, that was our spoiler review for Captain Marvel. So many great things in it.
Yeah. Go
and enjoy the movie. It is a blast, no pun intended with the photon blasts. You'll love it.
Yeah.
So for H1, for J-Rock, thank you very much for watching. We will see you in the next video.
Indeed, we will.
Goodbye.